All right, this is Smoothie. If you like this, please go ahead and like and subscribe. I need to get my subscribers up, so I can go ahead and do those live videos, and then I can just start giving more content to you all wherever I am. I might be walking out at the park, by the beach, just different places. So I I really do not like opinion, right? Because Red Fox had a very good joke about opinion, which I will not repeat right here. You should check Red Fox out on your own. But needless to say, everybody can have an opinion, at least one, maybe multiple opinions. Let's not forget there are schizophrenics out here and people with cognitive dissonance, right? But and people change their minds, but sometimes people hold in two different mutually exclusive views at the same time. But this video is about TPains Comments, and I have never met T-Pain. I do not know T-Pain. I am critiquing what he said. This is not a critique of T-Pain as a person, but his comments need a response. It's sort of like when someone says something so weird and it begs a question. Well, his comments beg a response, a correction. I don't even know if I should go into the comments because you can look them up for yourselves. But what I remember, there were parts where he said basically, I'm leaving maybe some vulgarities out, but Tupac, if he were around today, he would have been killed sooner. Sooner than what? He would have been, in today's time, lyrically eaten up by today's lyricists. I mean, okay, what does that mean? So, there's this theory going on that Tupac was not a great lyricist. Okay. My whole thing is, by what criteria, though? Like, what are you talking about? Would he have been killed sooner if he were, I mean, say he was born later and he was a young person now? Like, what? Because here's the problem, the main problem. The whole scenario is faulty because what what's the criteria? Like, okay, are you saying if Tupac were a young person now, or if he had been born when he was born, lived and done all the things he did up until 25 when he was assassinated, and then lived on to today? There's, I have to quote this song. Um, it's called Bad Name by Gangstar. And mind you, Guru died, I think it was in 2009, so he died like over 10 years ago, right? But there were some lyrics from Guru that Premier put together and put out a new album a couple of years ago. And there's a remix with Redman and Method Man. And he says something to the effect of, word to God, if Big and Pac were still here, most of you cats wouldn't act so cavalier. And then Method Man says, if Big and Pac were still here, most of you weirdos wouldn't even have a career. So you have to understand, when Tupac died, was killed, right? When he was killed, then other people who were already around became more famous. And somebody I watched actually mentioned how just Tupac mentioning people's names in his records. And I think they mentioned Jay-Z and Chino XL, how they actually got more light shed on them. So like even people like Tupac was mad at, if he mentioned them, then all of a sudden they became more popular. That was the immense presence of Tupac and the power of that. First of all, think about it. It's kind of like, did the Beatles, did they not say something like, we're more popular than Jesus, and people got upset? Right? So I'm not arguing whether that's true or not, who was more popular. What I'm saying is the fact that people are still talking about Tupac tells you something in its own right. Because if you're going to say you're great, you have to measure up to great, or to greatness, or the greatest. But again, when people say, here's my thing, any time people start talking about the greatest, Maybe unless it's Muhammad Ali. But it's superlative, right? It's the highest. And in the United States, it's very chauvinistic too, right? It's chauvinism. It's I'm better than you, and this is it. Because how can there be any one list of, say, greatest MCs? Because people are going to like what they like. And first of all, I have listened to a lot of people, but I have not listened to everybody. I've not listened to all the MCs. And where are you going to start? You're going to start at 1990? Are you going to start at 1980? Are you going to start at 2010? Are you going to start at 78 AD? I mean, where do you start? Do you go back? Do you count, say, the original language of the Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita? Like, what do you count? The Iliad, the Odyssey? Like, the Aeneid? Like, what do you count as MC and lyrics and poetry and being a poet? But some people would say Tupac was more than a rapper. He was a poet. But again, are they defining what a poet is and what a rapper is? Some people would say MCs are not rappers. I like that myself, but again, you have to know what those things mean. So, I mean, what then they'll say he wasn't lyrical, but he was a poet. I mean, what? Like, I know I saw a video where someone pointed out, and I commented on it too, and they said, well, how could he be a poet and not be lyrical? How can you be a poet and not be a lyricist? Good question. I do not understand that one. But in the United States has a problem where the United States, there's a culture of thinking that the United States is better than everywhere else. I'm not saying don't have confidence, but I'm just saying this is what the United States has. You can look at different sports leagues, and they will have world champions. I remember asking my dad when I was a kid, I was like, how can they have world champions, but all the teams are from the United States? It's like, well, oh, I guess the United States is the whole world, because it wasn't like, you didn't have like the LA Lakers playing some team from China, and then they got to go to the finals against, some team from Somalia. Like, I mean, what world are they talking about? The globe, the earth, solar system, the galaxy, the universe. Like, what's the world? The 3D physical reality world, or the, higher dimensional world, the, astral world. I mean, what are you talking about? The world. Like, there are so many worlds, right? And then even the first world and second world and third world, although those terms are not, they've been updated, right? But those aren't in use necessarily now. But so I come from a country where you have to have a best friend, a favorite color. I was asked this in school, like, what's your favorite color? I was like, why do I have to have a favorite color? I just like the colors I like. Like, why does that have to be one? Why can't I just have friends? Why do I have to choose one that's my best friend and they're over all the others? But that's part of the culture in the United States. Of course, I was a child and people would just look at me weirdly like, oh, well, you're a kid, you don't know. But as an adult, I remember those questions and realized they did not know. They had no idea. They were just going along with what they were taught they were supposed to believe in. But again, when we're talking about, say, the greatest MC, what is the criteria? Are we talking about speed, meter? I mean, what the literary devices, like how many metaphors you throw in there? Like, I mean, are you, how humorous it is? See now, and it's all subjective because people are going to like what they like. So I can understand having a list, like say I share a list of people that influence me, right? Or these are people that I like. But there is no one list of who the greatest are or who the one greatest is, as if everyone can agree with that, as if it's some objective thing. Because first of all, who has listened to everybody? You have to go all the way back to the past and all the way into the future. And people are talking about multiverses. So now we really have something. Somewhere there's there's a version of me possibly who cannot even speak. And then somewhere else, there's a version of me who can speak the best on the whole planet they're from or something, right? That's, to fall in with the concept of multiverses. But what is it that we're really talking about? If people really want to talk about it, let's get serious and really talk about it. Let's have some criteria. Let's have a rubric, a metric, something to measure, something objective. Otherwise, it's just nonsense. I mean, I can say all day, Tupac, and I'm not saying this, but Tupac would be just destroyed lyrically. Okay, but compared to whom? And T-Pain, he gave no names. He just said today's rappers. So here's something else. How are we supposed to do a comparative analysis if we don't have anything to compare it to? He didn't bring up any lyrics from Tupac, and then he did not name any modern rappers. I appreciate that he did not put himself in there, and I know he's known more as a singer. But someone also in the comments, please correct me if I'm wrong, was T-Pain the same guy who said within the past year that he was upset with people using too much autotune? And was he not the same guy that literally popularized autotune? Correct me, because I was not really following closely, but that's kind of interesting, to say the least. But also, who is the greatest? I mean, again, hopefully the planet won't explode tomorrow, but as far as we know, there are going to be thousands, maybe millions of generations to come, maybe billions or trillions, who have not even been born yet. So what are we talking about? I mean, just the whole thing, if there's nothing there, and I can hear my dad saying, well, if it's nonsense, it's nonsense. Why are you even concerned with it? But sometimes things are so nonsensical and, they have to be commented on because people need to know. And especially even younger people than myself, they need to know, especially if they're not able to figure out how to do the research to get the actual facts. I mean, I remember being asked when I was in high school by another high school student, something just so basic. And it's like, how could they ask me that? And then I realized, oh, they did not know some basic history things. So just some basic facts about history. Not the same thing I was talking about, but say someone bringing up something, they're talking about the 1960s, but then they use something that wasn't invented until the 1990s. And they're like, well, they could have just done such and such. It's like, well, that was not invented yet. So, you might have wanted to check first, or, excuse me, you might want to, that's not COVID, by the way. Just some saliva went down my trachea. But, I really don't understand. And speaking of my dad, I have to point out, I've never heard anyone, when they do any of these lists. See, first of all, when you see these lists, especially if they're published, check out who the lists are from. I'm coming back to my dad, but this needs to be said. Then also, I noticed in grade school, in elementary school, in grammar school, right? I remembered in primary school, I noticed that when people would say, who's the best MC or who's the best rapper or whatever, it always ended in conflict. And sometimes it actually ended friendships. And I thought it was so silly, like over something that, like, why? So I noticed a pattern that it never ended well. Like, so why even, so I stopped even getting in those conversations because I always tried to like just give some facts. Here's a fact here or here's that. But I wasn't, I was always, I just wanted to learn because I knew I had not listened to everybody. But guess what? My dad would tell me about Gil Scott-Heron. And he would play Gil Scott-Heron for me. I don't hear any of these people talking about these rappers and MCs mentioning Gil Scott-Heron. Where's Gil Scott-Heron? I mean, have you listened to Gil Scott-Heron? I know Warren G has. But where are the people, and then we can go even, let's take it out from there. I was going to bring up Nikki Giovanni, but some people say that's poetry. But if she was doing poetry to music, is that not rapping? But they would say, well, no, she was a poet, not a rapper. Whatever. But I'm not trying to get into that right now. But the thing is, what about people from other countries? What about Canadian rappers? What about British rappers? South African rappers? Oh, wait a minute. Let's take it outside of just rapping in English, which some South African rappers do as well. But what about people that rap in French? What about people like Marie Dulon, from Zap Mama? This lady was rapping like Twister and Micah 9, and a lot of people don't know who Micah 9 is, first of all, and, Bone Thugs and Harmony in at least 3 different languages. She was rapping in a language from the Congo. She was rapping in French and English equally well, from what I could tell. I mean, I do not speak all those languages, but, and singing. But you could say, well, we're not talking about the singing. But is that part of the criteria? Again, like, is it how many internal rhymes you have, or what? Is it the fact if you can sing and rap? I mean, what is the criteria? So there has to be a criteria that can be objectively checked and that is defined. It's like a math problem, right? Like, you have to have some givens. You have to have some definitions. Otherwise, you have to solve for what is not known. And if nothing is known, then you can just say whatever. But why not use the language mathematically? If you're going to build a house and you say this is the tallest house, you have to use some type of measurement, whether it's feet, cubits, something. You have to measure meters. You have to use yards or something. Okay, lengths of Shaq's foot or something. You have to have some type of measurement that you can measure this house against all other houses and say, yeah, this is the tallest house, because guess what? This one is 25 of Shaq's feet. So it's taller than the Empire State Building or something. But and I know that's not the tallest building, but I'm just saying probably Shaq's house is the tallest house, at least. His car is probably the tallest car. But it's just actually Shaq had some hip hop records as well. So, but again, I do not hear people bringing up Chaos or Ms. Dynamite or Little Sims or Stormzy or K Reno. This guy has a whole thing that could be a double CD just on the songs he's done, talking about his interactions with the sorcerer. He has a whole sorcerer saga that spanned over, I think, maybe 10 different CDs or something, right? Like he and I think it's still going on. I even got my mother into it, right? She's like, what happened to K Reno's bike? So, who are we listening to? Who are we going to look at? Are we going to look at Eli? Are we going to look at Living Legends? Are we going to look at, the Freestyle Fellowship? Are we going to look at the hieroglyphics? Are we going to look at, and everybody connected to them? Are we going to look at, there's so many people. Are we going to look at the Locks? Are we going to look at Styles P and Jadakiss? There's so many people. And where are these people? You get my point. But again, I try to stay off of opinion. And like I said, this was more about commenting on TPains Comments, not critiquing him as a person. Because again, I do not know him as a person. But I know one thing. People are still talking about Tupac right now. There are literally new videos about Tupac put up every day on YouTube. Every day, currently. And when you realize that more years have passed since Tupac was killed than the number of years Tupac actually lived, think about that. Tupac probably has hit songs right now. And then again, what's a hit, right? But the thing is, Tupac definitely was influential, and that cannot be taken away from him. But there are haters, and maybe T-Pain just heard some incorrect stuff. like I said, you can like and subscribe, comment. This was just straight off the cuff, but get my subscribers up. Help me out. If you want to cash at me, that's even better, right? But eventually, when I get enough subscribers, I'll be going live, and then you can see me in some different places, like even while I'm performing, and that will be pretty awesome. So, and I'm never going to try to say I'm better than Tupac or anybody else, because guess what? I'm not Tupac. I am me. And I can never be perfect. Well, we'll see, but I am not perfect, but I can be the perfect me. I like to say I'm not the perfect MC, but I am the perfect me. I'm the one and only me. So I'm not Tupac. I'm not anybody else. I look like my father, but I'm not him either. So I am me. So thank you.